to Virtual Shakeup 2.0. We're really delighted to have you here today. I think what we want to do, though, is show our first poll survey of where everyone is from. I don't know. We've got Helsinki, London, Finland, the Netherlands, so a lot of EU countries. And hopefully during the day, we'll see some more North America areas pop up. A great crowd. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first keynote fireside chat, and that is Christine Shaw, who is the CEO of Investment News.
Hi, Heather. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. We're really excited that you were able to join us. But as quick introduction, Christine is the CEO of Investment News, which is a leading publication for financial advisors read by more than 1 million professionals who influence trillions of dollars of managed assets. Investment News hosts dozens of events and awards each year. Christine's background includes being the SVP and Managing Director of Future PLC, as well as she was in charge of many events of the whole event group at Penwell, events, trade shows, publications, and digital properties. And she also has a podcast called Her Success Matters. Christine is a tremendous advocate of female leadership as well as diversity. And with that, let's dive into our multi-platform media company undergoes rapid transformation to the new normal. But before we do that, we actually have a poll question because this is actually something we're going to touch on during this presentation, this discussion is what is the number one skill you learned due to the lockdown? So if you just type in your answer, we'll show the results later. So Christine, first, I guess the thing that really, the way that you went about handling the pandemic with literally 7 months under your belt as CEO of Investment News was really extraordinary to me. You had mentioned that you really took a different approach, which is invest in your team, the skills, and literally just moving forward, you pivoted to a virtual event in 2 months and you maintained and retained your event team. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Heather. Obviously, being the new CEO of a company is a daunting task under any circumstances, and none of us could have anticipated what the global pandemic has been. But my leadership style has always been to make decisions rapidly and lead the team in that direction. And sometimes you don't always get it right, but I think that indecision is better than, lack of decision can have negative effects. So when we first realized this was happening, we just all got together at the end of March on a virtual call and said, look, let's double down and make it our job to be the best producers of virtual events, because this is going to be hitting us for a while. And what I don't want to do is spend most of our energy focusing on, should we do live, should we be virtual? And the reality is none of us were going to know. And so I think taking a decision early, we watched some of the event conference producers in our space wait and hesitate. And I think that hurt them. So we had to, the good thing is we never had to cancel an event. We rescheduled them, sometimes many times over. We then realized quickly in our first go at this, we were really replicating what we were doing in person, and we realized that's not going to work. And the team was very overwhelmed, let's just say, with all the platforms and the learnings. So one of the things, as you know, with a lot of these virtual event platforms is they have training components. And I think what happened early on is some companies didn't want to take on that cost and the extra cost that goes along with the training components and the customer service. We decided that we were going to talk to our customers about the value proposition. And it's very easy to go to the fact of, hey, it's a lot cheaper to do these virtual, so therefore we want a discount. And we really doubled down and said, well, we're still going to provide you with the leads, and we want to provide you with amazing customer support and experience. And so we're going to we invested in extra training for the staff, and we invested in extra training for the customers and customer support. So we really upskilled the team. And it went from sort of panic to a lot of frustration to then sort of excitement and now fatigue. I mean, we made some mistakes along the way. Of course we did. We all had those moments. I remember one of the first ones we did back in April, actually, our Women Advisor Summit, where we had a tech glitch. And the event person who handles those. I mean, if you could see her face on camera, it looked like the blood was rushing away from her and she was going to faint. And what I said to her is, look, this can happen in a real event. I mean, how many times have we been there where the audio doesn't work, or somebody's presentation, that the speaker who's like didn't get their slides in advance and their thumb drive isn't compatible. So we've all been there, and I'm like, this happens. So you have to just be accepting of that and thank your customers for their patience and support. And once everyone realized, yeah, I mean, it is a lot like in person. Things are going to happen, but our ability to recover from those and do better next time is what's going to make or break it. So I think that gave the team a lot of confidence. And because we did not have to cancel any events this year and we ran our full platform, we actually launched some new events. We were able to retain our entire staff. And in fact, we're hiring more staff as well right now. So.
No, that's you just covered quite a bit. So I'm trying to, as I tell my daughter, she's studying for an exam, I want to break it down into chunks.
Yeah.
What would you say the top skills for your team were that you felt that you focused on?
Yeah, so first of all, it was understanding platforms. I mean, if you put any event operator, they know those venues, they know how to work with an on-site operation, they know how to work with audio and all that. So it was really getting them comfortable with platforms and really getting them comfortable with technology. That was the biggest thing. Little things like even today, every time you switch platforms, letting them understand like how to make adjustments, how to get that support. And now they're all a lot more comfortable. We also invested in some of our regular speakers in some coaching on speaking and how to have better on-camera presence. So it were things like that, like everything from their confidence with the platforms and also their ability, some of our regular speakers, just giving them those skill sets on how to improve speaking on camera.
Absolutely. That's a really important part, which is, you mentioned customers. Customers include speakers, they include your attendees, and they include your sponsors. And I want to dive into that in a second. I just want to remind the audience that we have designated about 10 minutes after my questions for the audience. So start putting those questions into the sidebar. So when you talk about training your customers, and this was something that I saw with other clients is, everyone just expected we're going to do virtual, and they were using the same language, trade show, booth, things like this. And so the customers went on, they're expecting, their behaviors didn't change. And there was I've seen a lot of discontent in terms of the experience and the ROI. What did you do to ensure that you were training your customers from the get-go as to not only what to expect, but what behaviors did they have to change in order to extract the ROI?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at the end of the day, I think you mentioned too earlier, it's leads and networking. Those are the two things. It's really connections. So one is we did that same sort of training with speakers and sponsors who weren't as familiar with the platforms. So we did invest a lot of time, and we would do some workshops around, getting them ready. We would give them best practice documents. We always had a plan B to the plan A and a plan C to the plan B and a plan D. So there was always backup, because I think the biggest fear for any of them is, I don't want to look bad if I get up and speak and there's a problem. So we always had a rescue plan to make sure that that they would be assured that it would be a pleasant experience. And they really appreciated that and got comfortable. The other thing is we really spoke to them about the difference between engagement in an online environment versus engagement in a physical environment. So that helped to generate really good leads. I think you mentioned in one of the openings, like Salesforce was our big client that we hadn't ever attracted before, and they joined us for a new launch event that we did in October. And they were so thrilled with the quality of the leads. So we would coach our sponsors and say, these are the content assets you need, and these are the kind of things you should be talking about to get people to be interested. If you're just putting a text specification in a virtual booth, that's not going to help. Mm-hmm. And we also explained to them that being available for that booth and things you can do during the event to help draw people in and download. And I will say virtual booths are definitely the hardest for engagement, but at the end of the day, it's about delivering quality leads, and we've done a really good job at that for the most part with our customers.
Yeah, I actually look at the booth as actually more of like a microsite or a marketplace or a storefront where people can go to access information, but it's not like you're standing there waiting for people to pass by. And I think that's that big mindset. With regard to leads, this is a part where I see also event organizers having a real struggle, right? Because you know, in a real life experience, the leads are the people that pass by your booth. You're scanning, you're getting the business cards. So it actually feels good that you actually feel like someone came by. Whereas with downloading of content, and how are you, first of all, when do you give them the leads, right? How are they getting those leads? And what information are you providing? And is there anything else you're doing to help the sponsor understand where these leads fit in the pipeline?
Yeah, so in two ways, it depends on which platform. So we chose multiple platforms for our events because it's not one size fits all, just like a venue. And in some of the platforms, we have qualifying questions. So if you're sponsoring one of those, you will get leads from people who are directly engaging with the questions and the content. And then in terms of the other leads, we give them post-event, and we go through and make sure that, you know, they're the right leads for them. And then we typically check in with them. I mean, I think that the tricky thing is always whether you're in a in-person event or a virtual event, really a lot of companies, it comes up to them as to how to process those leads. And it's amazing because you have a lot of companies that say, I want leads, and then they don't do anything with them. Most of our clients are pretty savvy about leads. And because of the environment we're in, if people are taking the time to attend a virtual event in this environment and engage, those are pretty qualified hot leads. And we've had some really good feedback saying, you know, the engagement was great, the leads were great. And the people right now, it's like if you're going to a trade show, half of it is traveling and seeing all the different things. That's a lot different than committing your personal time to an event. And we're finding that the speakers get so amplified on this platform that they get a lot of outreach. And so that's what's been really nice is we have some pay to play sponsorships. And when they see how many questions they're getting and follow up and emails and requests for meetings, that really excites them.
No, for sure. Absolutely. I think we wanted to share some results of the question we just asked about skill sets, because that actually will lead into my next question. We'll see if that comes up. So you upskilled your team. You've been training your customers so that they will have a good customer journey, ROI. Things have been going great. What new roles do you see evolving because of this forced business transformation that we've all been put in because of COVID and the shutdown?
Yeah, good question. We are hiring it now. So we have put in an event production team. So that's something really important as, again, not everything's been great. We've made our mistakes along the way. And what we realized is in the real world, we would have a video production team that would go out and do custom videos. And so now we're in this online virtual. And so what we've done is we're hiring production teams who really work with the platform. And they are the liaison between the platform and the customer and the event team so that there's an extra pair of hands so that they're really entrenched in the technology part. They can troubleshoot, they can make sure the assets the client provide look great, they can bring out the best, and they're just that support person, just like you would have on site for operations.
Yep. Well, it's another thing I noticed in May versus now is, we went out with, the virtual event, but everyone forgot about the production team, right?
Yes.
Like doing an event without an AV team.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the poll is ready.
Yeah, we have some good results from the poll. So lots of people saying that the skill they learned was about virtual events. Live streaming has come from nowhere, really, and become a main theme. I'm all for that. Patience, a big one. You talked about that earlier. Zoom expertise on lighting. I should know I've got a big light here. One of the things I really liked, though, was mindfulness, if you look on the top left. And also somebody wrote that their gardening skills are much better as well. So some fun answers there.
Thanks so much, Ralph. So those results are actually quite interesting. A theme that I found that's underlying this whole second virtual shakeup is basically taking a startup mentality, being agile, learning patience while you're multitasking. Do you feel your team works like a startup?
Yeah, I mean, there's days, right, that maniacal pace that we're always uncovering new things that they hadn't encountered. I want to talk about the mindfulness and the patience, though. It's interesting because one of the things we did in terms of introducing content to our virtual events and to our team is we brought on some meditation specialists. And sometimes as a team, we do that. We will listen to the daily calm. We sometimes will start a meeting and we'll do 30 seconds to a minute of complete calm. And I feel it's important. And it's funny because the team will always say, I'm so glad you bring this because you have to have those moments of calm. And I constantly am reminding the team about that. And our customers, when we have brought the meditation into our virtual events, they absolutely love it. That probably gets the strongest feedback of all the non-related content. They love it.
No, that's so important. Again, the other part is Zoom fatigue, sitting there in front of a screen. Because if you actually think about it, you're talking about two stakeholder groups. One is your employee base, which they're doing the same, you know, and it's death by meeting sometimes with Zoom. You're also not around the creative, what I call the brain juice in an office. So I think that's really important that you've spent the time and money and effort and thoughtfulness to bring that in. And then also for your attendees and sponsors, giving them, it's like, we need to support them too, not just with the education, the content, the networking, but you know what, here's a little break. So I think I love that idea. So you and I also briefly talked about hybrid, and I actually really appreciated what you said because it was very honest. Tell the audience what your thoughts are as it relates to the complexity that hybrid may bring to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, technology as an enabler is excellent, right? So virtual events have been around, but they haven't been embraced, and the pandemic has accelerated that. So I think the good news is technology as an enabler can be fantastic. I think that it's not going to be this perfect solution that, oh, everyone's going to run to hybrids, because you have to think about your event, the cost, and the opportunity, right? So if you think about this, when we go back to the real world, or not the real world, the physical world, I should say, and we're bringing these events back in person, some of them will lend itself great to hybrid. But some of those events, if you're thinking about the cost of the venue, the bringing all the F&B, all that marketing, and then all the technology expense, and then just trying to train it all, that could pose some challenges and also opportunities. But I don't think it's a magic bullet that this virtual event is for everything and everyone should do it. I think you have to look really carefully at the audience, the venue, the P&L specifically of each event, and take it event by event. I think it has some exciting opportunities though.
Well, speaking of P&L, we have a question from the audience, which is, Christine, how does the profitability of your virtual events in 2020 compare to your in-person events in 2019?
Pretty good, actually. So our revenue was down slightly, not as much as a lot of events, again, because we had some sponsors that were just like, we're not doing it. But overall, our profitability was up year over year on events.
Okay, great. And I guess we'll see the next question which is, do you advise adding a BCM clause? Which I don't even know, what is BCM?
Yeah, let's see, what is BCM? So I'd have to know what that acronym is, so apologies.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to that. Someone let us know. And then I guess this last question is, did the speakers express that the additional support and training made a big difference in their experience?
100%. In fact, when I talk about Salesforce, in fact, just yesterday, we got another email from one of our women advisor communities. We get so much positive feedback. They are like, you made this so easy for us. And Salesforce verbatim, they sent an email saying, this was the best virtual event we've attended, bar none. And they do a lot. So we took that as a big compliment from Salesforce.
Well, Salesforce runs one of the largest events in the world, which is Dreamforce. So you're talking to a producer of an event who's actually complimenting you on your event. I think that's like a 10X.
It was all credit to the team. I mean, I cannot express how great of an events team we have. And it was all they're doing, endless hours of preparation, learning, and they're really proud of what they've accomplished this year, and I'm proud of them.
Absolutely. So speaking of Salesforce and sponsors, you are an integrated media brand, and i.e. you have a digital website where you can sell advertising, and I'm sure specialized sponsorships, lead generation, newsletters, webinars. You've been doing that already, and then you had events. Was your sales team prior to the shutdown already integrated, i.e. you would go to a customer? Okay, so you had a divided sales team. I use one sold digital and the other sold events. Do you see that changing?
It's interesting. So I've run teams both ways, right? And there is something to be said. And in fact, one of my sales people who sold for me previously in that integrated environment is now in a split environment. It's right now, it's really working for us, even through this virtual thing, because they've gotten to become experts on virtual events, the platforms, the benefits. They work very closely with the commercial team on the media side. And so they're compensated to help each other, not compete against each other. And the way we're approaching it right now works really, really well. It's a great team. They work collaboratively, and our customers love that we have somebody who really understands the events, and it's sort of like the event specialist. So far that's working, and we're not going to change that anytime soon.
Okay, great. We have one last question from the audience and one final one for me. How many platforms did you initially trial, and what was the deciding factors in terms of the one you chose?
So as I mentioned earlier, we settled on several platforms. So we probably tried in the beginning, 3 or 4 different ones. And just like a venue, we realized that it's not one size fits all. So we chose one specific platform. Right now we're using StreamGo, and we built APIs into that connect our registration system. We also use On24 Elite, and then we also use Zoom, like everyone has, depending on what networking and all that. And we'll reevaluate, because I think the thing, Heather, is, as we were mentioning in the opening, there's a lot of platforms now. So it's going to be the arms race to who's going to be the best with the most robust features. What you're going to see now is customers are going to be much more demanding of what they're getting, the ROI, the experience. So they were forgiving in the very beginning, and that's shifted because now we're all experts at this, right? So I think that you have to look at your platforms as you go forward to see who has emerged as an absolute leader.
Yep, no, absolutely. And I actually also, my thing is not all platforms are meant for, all types of events.
Yep.
So I love the approach you did. And I guess my last question, if you had 3 things for, the audience that you have to focus on in 2021, what would they be?
Obviously, building the team, investing in the technology, we're upskilling the team for sure, and taking good care of your team. Technology, and constantly evaluate. Don't just get caught in it, and be on the lookout for that. And then be very careful of your P&L as you're moving forward into introducing live events back, and what you choose for hybrid. And there are some events that we're going to keep virtual because they've worked really well. And it's a great way to introduce the launch events.
Great. Well, this is a great close for us, the whole launch. We're going to be talking about launch events later on in the program. So Christine, thank you so much for joining us today. And if we have any more questions from the audience, we'll let you know after the event's over. So thank you.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. I am going to just do some housekeeping notes. So make sure to utilize your time if you have during breaks to schedule meetings. And we will be up next with with Stefan Forsay from Easy Fares.